Before the internet, the predominant way to get files from one computer to another was to manually save them to some sort of storage device and take them to the other computer. This was known as the SneakerNet. And it wasn't until Vince Cerf and Bob Kahn developed a file transfer communications protocol that computers were able to directly communicate with each other. Modems then allowed these digital communications to be converted to analog and transferred through existing phone wires, very similar to how early telegraph machines worked. Eventually, they evolved into the standardized and digitized Ethernet cables that we know today. But in the age of wireless communication, these retro pieces of computing history are becoming more and more obsolete. Let's give them the send-off they deserve by hacking some new life into them. Here's how a standard Ethernet cable works. In each cable there are 8 wires, unlike the phone cable which only has 6. This is the standard way in which Ethernet wires are arranged, but as long as the color arrangement on one end matches the color arrangement on the other end, you should be fine. These wires are then aligned and fitted into a connector called a registered Jack 45 connector. When referring to Ethernet cables, you'll sometimes hear terms tossed around like Cat5, Cat5e, or Cat6. These terms refer to how insulated the wires are from interference and how fast they can transmit data. So, whenever an Ethernet cable is connected to a computer, that computer assigns each of these wires a transmit or receive protocol. These remaining wires aren't used unless you have a gigabit connection. Now, this type of connection is standard on all computers, so if you took a single Ethernet cable and plugged one end into one computer and the other end into a different computer, they would both be able to send data, but neither one could receive it. But what if on one end of the cable you swap the transmitting and receiving wires? This would allow one computer to send data while the other one would be able to receive it. This type of cable is known as a crossover cable, and it's often used in IT environments whenever you're wanting to communicate with another computer without using a router, a switch, or the internet. Aside from data, can these wires also transmit power? Well, yes, but obviously you have to be very careful with it. Please do not do this hack unless you're very familiar with voltages and the dangers that they can cause. This type of setup is known as Power over Ethernet, or PoE. Its use case is to run power to routers and switches that aren't close to any other power outlets. The setup principle is the same as the USB hack. You can take your power cable and cut it in half and connect the plus wire to one of the extra twisted pairs in the Ethernet cable and connect the minus wire to the other pair. Repeat this exact same combination to the opposite end of the cable. Then wherever you need to run the cable to, you don't have to worry about whether an outlet is there or not.